I can't believe it. It feels like we've been talking about it for years, and now the Copa America is at our doorstep. Kicks off on Thursday, and this is a sprint of a tournament, so buckle up, watch as much as you can, because it's 3 weeks, and then we crown a champion, and I have said this is so important. The South Americans know it. This is a priority. This is an antiquated tournament. Argentina's won it 50 times. Uruguay's won it 15 times. There's some famous finals through the years. So every important South America player has played in this tournament. It's important, and now the CONCACAF nations get a shot to participate in it. It's a very rare opportunity. First time since 2016 where both USA and Mexico reached the semifinals, and they're back, and they're looking to perhaps pry that Copa away from CONMEBOL and bring it to CONCACAF. The question if one of those teams can do it is the big question here for a variety of reasons. It may change this tournament forever. It may create a combined tournament because both regions know that together they are strong. Together, like Ron and King Lear. And, CONCACAF's been kicked around a lot. No one thinks that they can compete with CONMEBOL, and there's really not enough evidence to suggest that they can. But here's that opportunity, and we will break it all down here on the Soccer OG. Check out the Soccer OG podcast, where all podcasts are available. We have the latest one with Charles Bohm still up. We'll have a new one previewing the big stories for the Copa America coming this week. Like and subscribe is here. Hit that smash button. We're doing great. So many people are reaching out, asking questions. I'm here for all of it. Let's enjoy this ride together. And we will have some predictions. We will have some big ticket items that need to be resolved. Let's take a look at the groups. Group A, Argentina, the reigning champions, Peru, Chile, and Canada. Group B, Mexico, Ecuador, Venezuela, and Jamaica. Group C, the United States, Uruguay, Panama, and Bolivia. And Group D, Brazil, Colombia, Paraguay, and Costa Rica. Let's get back to the big ticket item here. And I'm going to start by saying, in all likelihood, a South American team is going to win it. Argentina is the prohibitive favorite, and they have a very, very favorable draw. Brazil is right behind them. Then there's a drop off to Colombia and Uruguay. And then you have USA and Mexico, which you get pretty decent numbers for. Still not a slam dunk in the bettor's eyes by any means, but in the mix to perhaps get that done. And the 6 countries I mentioned, Uruguay, I did mention them. Argentina's ranked 1 in the FIFA rankings. Brazil's 5th. USA's 11th. Maybe it's a bit high considering they lost to Colombia, who's 1 spot behind them at 12. Mexico's 14. Uruguay's 15. So those are the big 6 that can win it. And I will include the USA and Mexico in it for the time being, even though they're on the outside. The big 4 South American teams there are the front runners. I like Ecuador a lot, but they're ranked 31st. We don't look too much into the FIFA rankings, but there's more accuracy in there than you know it. When they take this quotient and the analytics about who they've played, when they've played it, they make some sense. Peru is 32nd, which is really puzzling. Chile 42, Panama 45th, and then they're all kind of squished in there. Canada 49, Costa Rica 52, Venezuela 54, Jamaica 55, Paraguay 56, and then Bolivia set adrift at 85. So that's good news for the U.S. They're playing the weakest team. And we'll get to that preview, but I'll say it now. The United States, I think, blow the doors off Bolivia in that opener. 4 goals, 5 goals. That's how I think it is. I'm feeling very good about what the U.S. are able to do. And I can't speak on behalf of the CONCACAF teams. We'll set a line at maybe 1.5 teams from CONCACAF making the quarterfinals. The U.S. look pretty locked in. Mexico, a little less locked in, but I tend to think they find a way because they are really the real hosts of this tournament, if you get my drift. Canada has a shot. Jamaica has a shot, maybe at the expense of Mexico. So I think 4 teams could potentially make it. Not all together, but 3 possible. I will also add that, and we've seen it in these friendlies coming into the competitions, whether the USA and Mexico make their targets, I can assure you, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Uruguay, none of them want to play the United States, and they don't want to play Mexico. Because they know if they play Mexico, they're going to be in a cauldron. Just so you know, Mexico plays Jamaica in Houston. They play Venezuela in Los Angeles. They play Ecuador in Arizona. I mean, it is going to be a cauldron for all of those. And we'll talk about the Mexico team. The United States, and we heard Dorival Jr., the Brazilian coach, asked about them. And he made a lot of sense because not a lot of teams are at the same stage as the U.S. He says they're no longer a young team. They have the experience of a big competition. They are heading into their, I'm paraphrasing here, but they're heading into their sweet spot. This is Christian Pulisic. For this tournament and the World Cup, this is Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, Yunus Musa to a lesser degree, Tyler Adams, Gio Reyna to a lesser degree. But those guys, they're going to be their best international days. Reyna and Musa, who are a little younger, that'll stretch a little bit. But, you know, if we look at 2030 World Cup, these guys are going to be close to 30, and maybe some new young American players take their spot. This is the sweet spot, and it comes at a perfect time because the United States are hosting the Copa and they are hosting the World Cup. We have seen that the United States succumbed home field advantage against Colombia and to a lesser degree in Brazil, but they still are going to feel comfortable at home. They have been here. This is their home. Every other country, even though everyone's based in Europe, the U.S. will feel comfortable because they can go see their friends. Their families will be there. They know these cities. And everywhere they go, people will be like, USA! All of that plays a part more than just a big crowd there. Okay? All the creature comforts will play a part. So, with that said, nobody's going to want to play either of those teams. And I think Brazil don't want to taste. I don't think Colombia want to taste. I'm not saying the U.S. wins those games. But nobody wants to play the U.S. or Mexico. And that makes them very dangerous. I think we've seen some growth in both of them, specifically for the United States heading in there. Mexico feels like they're lurking a bit. And the computer loves their numbers. The sports books love Mexico. So what can I tell you? Maybe they're packing the sports books a little bit too much. Let's get into it. Argentina, Peru, Chile, and Canada. Group A. It's hard to deny Argentina. They are going to win this group. I like Canada to finish second and Chile third. Chile has some, they're moving away from Arturo Vidal and Gary Medel. They still have Alexis Sanchez. They have a good team. I think Chile are hitting this spot and they're going to move up. They could easily finish second. Peru's been a mess in World Cup qualifiers. No wins in their first 6. That's why I was stunned by their ranking. Peru just is, you don't really see the replenishing of the players. So Argentina's going to win in either Chile and Canada. I'm going to go with Canada. Now, Argentina, I feel like they're going to stub their toe. They've had such good fortune in the Copa America run and then the World Cup run, getting penalties, winning penalty shootouts. You can't always do that. You can't always do it. I believe this is Lionel Messi's last big tournament, and I also think that we're going to see diminishing returns with him. It's amazing he's gone this far. And it's also a byproduct that Argentina have so many studs waiting in the wings. This Lionel Scaloni team was Messi and the River Plate core created by Marcelo Gallardo, which included Julian Alvarez, Enzo Fernandez, Gonzalo Montiel, and a couple others. And now that group's coming up with some young players that I just mentioned, and Alexis McAllister, other guys like that, they're going to take the reins. If Argentina had a tougher path, I would be a little encouraged, if that's not the right word, to make me have them hit a hurdle along the way. But it's hard to see it on that side of the bracket. So Argentina 1, Canada 2. Group B, this is Mexico's group. Ecuador has been the best team in the northern cone of the Spanish language speaking countries. They have a good squad led by Moises Caicedo. Piero Hincapié, who plays at Leverkusen's excellent. They have also they've naturalized a couple players. I love Alan Franco. A lot of guys who play in Brazil. Jeremy Sarmiento is one of those guys that could displace Ener Valencia, so they have a replacement there. They're missing Pervis Estupiñán, which is a big one. So Ecuador is not is very talented, but there are some flaws there. Venezuela is the interesting team. They're doing great in qualifiers. They have Yangel Herrera, who is going to be their best player, Macias. Then they have a bunch of guys playing in Brazil, Jefferson Savarino, among others. A lot of MLS players that started there. I love Venezuela, but you're asking me to put Venezuela ahead of Mexico when they are going to play at SoFi Stadium. And I just think that is just a huge order for Venezuela. And then Jamaica. Jamaica can do things even though their federation are an absolute mess right now. But they have talent. They've also had some games of World Cup qualifiers, so they've been playing at an intense level leading into the Copa. I think all four, this is the most entertaining group. All four have a shot. Ecuador is going to win it. Mexico is going to finish second, although the more I think about it, I feel Mexico has a shot here, which is something I would not have said a couple weeks ago when we saw Mexico hitting some really, really low spots. Group C, this is the United States group. The U.S. is going to crush Bolivia. Panama's been a tricky team for the United States, but I think they get a win there, and then they're through. And then they'll have the game against Uruguay. Uruguay is being picked by a lot of people to win it. I love Uruguay. I think when you look at player 1 to like player 17, 18, they are right up there with Argentina and Brazil. I don't know if they have the best 5, 6 that Argentina and Brazil have. They have some question marks. I mean, they've finally moved away from the old guard. Luis Suarez is still there, but I think he's going to be as a substitute. This is the time for Darwin Nunez to step up, and he has had his issues on the club level, but maybe this is the moment where he arrives. Federico Valverde is probably the best number 8 in the competition. We'll just say arguably there. He is fantastic. And then there's a bit of a drop-off, but all really good. Guys that we've seen, Facundo Pelestri, Nico de la Cruz, and there'll be a stout defense, and the big star is Marcelo Bielsa. This game's going to be in Kansas City. I think the USA wins this group. Maybe it's a tie. I like Uruguay, but I'm not mesmerized as many are. I think there's some issues on their top line, and I want to see what Darwin Nunez has. So, USA played Uruguay in friendlies up to the World Cup and performed pretty well. Granted, there was different rosters, etc. So USA wins that group. Group D, the big game here is Brazil and Colombia. Paraguay, Costa Rica don't have a shot in that group against the top 2. The question is who wins that big game. And even though Brazil lost to the United States in that friendly, Brazil's malaise goes much further than that. We look at the World Cup qualifiers. They are in, 6th or 7th place, struggling and losing to the big teams. They lost to Colombia. Colombia's surging. Colombia has their issues, but I think as it applies in the group stages, they will win this group, and we'll see how that affects Brazil. But I love this Colombia team. Now, that said, Colombia, their history, their image is a team that falls short. And this is going to be a unique tournament. They had a great Copa America 4 years ago. They didn't qualify, or 4 years ago. They didn't qualify 3 years ago. They didn't qualify for the World Cup. James Rodriguez is a question mark. I don't know why he's on there because everyone around them is fantastic. Luis Diaz is their best player. Jean Lucumi is an outstanding defender, one of the best. I love this team across the board with who they have. And, John Arias, they're going to be deep. They're going to be able to bring some pop off the bench as well. And I like this Colombia team. The question is once they get to the heavy hitters. So we get to the quarterfinals. It's going to be Argentina versus Mexico. This is going to be a battle. I think Mexico pushes it hard, but Argentina will find a way in what's going to be Messi's swan song. Ecuador versus Canada. Another good competition here. I think Ecuador is going to be too strong. That'll be one semifinal. The other side of the bracket, I'm going to hedge my bets here. It's going to be USA versus Brazil, and it's going to be Colombia versus Uruguay. Two incredible matches. Brazil made some mistakes against the U.S. I am going to say that they don't make them here, and they're a little bit more assertive, and they grab the ring. It's going to be a very hotly contested game, may go to extra time. I feel the U.S. can win this game, but for the sake of being neutral as possible, I'm going to say Brazil wins. and I am going to say Colombia wins. Argentina beats Ecuador. That's going to be a great semi. I think Ecuador has a shot. And then on the other side, Colombia beats Brazil. And my final, Colombia beats Argentina. So I know our CONCACAF viewers are going to be like, what the heck? You just set us up. I truly believe the U.S. have a shot here. If they can get by Brazil in that quarterfinals, the world is their oyster. It's just the margins in all, this tournament's going to be so good when we get to the quarterfinals because the margins in all four of those are razor thin. Mexico's going to push Argentina. Ecuador's going to get pushed by Canada. Uruguay-Brazil's a coin flip. Or Uruguay-Colombia is a coin flip. And I think the U.S. and Brazil's kind of close to there, but Brazil gets the slightest of edges. I don't know what to say. I was wishing, I don't want to be that rah-rah guy. I want to be realistic. But I'm telling you now, don't be surprised if the USA and Mexico find themselves in the semifinals. Okay? They can even things out in this tournament. The Soccer OG. Check out the Soccer OG podcast, where all podcasts are available. Like and subscribe us here, and to the Cafeteros. Felicidades, va a ser campeón de Copa America. I may have jinxed you. I'm sorry, but that's the way it goes. We'll be back once the games start. Enjoy!